Hello and welcome back. We have just finished implementing crouch walking, and we are now able to transition between crouching and standing while we're moving. We're strafing. We can fire the weapon while we're crouching. We can turn in place while we're crouching. This is starting to look more like a fully fledged game. Now, one of the things I want to change in this video is the movement speed while crouching. We want to change that. And then we also want to not be able to jump while we're crouching. We want to simply stand up when we hit the space bar or the jump button on the controller. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So we're here in shootercharacter.h, and I'd like to create a couple of floats for the character's movement speed based on whether or not she's crouching. So let's go to our private section and create a couple floats. We're going to create a float called base movement speed, and we're going to create a float called crouch movement speed. I'm going to make them visible anywhere, blueprint read only, category movement, and I'll give them some comments as well. So this will say regular movement speed, and for this one, crouch movement speed. And we'll give these default values in the constructor. So in the constructor for shootercharacter.cpp, just after be crouching, we'll say base movement speed, and let's give this a value of say 650.f, and of course we can tweak this, and then we'll have crouch movement speed, and we'll give this a value that's a little less, maybe let's say 300. We can experiment with that. Now in begin play, I'd like to go ahead and set the character's walk speed to the base movement speed. So here in begin play, just after everything, I'm going to say get character movement and get the max walk speed and set that equal to base movement speed. Now let's go to our crouch button pressed function, and if we're not in the air, we're going to toggle crouching. But now we need to know if we're crouching or not. If we are crouching, if be crouching, we just pressed the crouch button and now we're crouching. We want to be moving more slowly. So we're going to call get character movement and set the max walk speed equal to crouch movement speed. Now in the else case, we've just hit the crouch button and now we're not crouching, which means we're coming out of the crouching state, and we need to set this equal to our base movement speed. So we're going to get character movement, set the max walk speed to base movement speed. Perfect. Okay, next, let's talk about jumping. So I'm going to go to our bind action function where we're binding the jump button, and we're calling a character's jump function. Now, instead of calling the a character's jump function, I'd like to override this jump function so that we can have additional functionality. So why don't we go ahead and right-click on jump and peek the definition for this. And you'll see that it's a virtual function on character. So we can override this. So let's go ahead and do that. So in shootercharacter.h, scroll up to the protected section and create a new virtual void override. So it's going to be a virtual void function called jump. It's going to be an override, and let's go ahead and create a definition for this. And here in jump, I want to see if we're crouching. If be crouching, if we are crouching, I simply want to set be crouching equal to false. However, if we're not crouching, we're standing up, then I want to jump. So then I want to call a character jump. Simple as that. Now the last thing we need to do is call this function instead of a character jump and set up player movement component. So back up here and set up player movement component, I'm going to call a shooter character jump instead of a character jump. All right, let's compile this and give our new changes a test. Okay, back in the editor, let's go ahead and hit play. And first we're going to run around and then hit shift. And there we are, we're moving much slower. And I'm also noticing now that I really don't like the end of that begin crouching animation. I think that we can trim off a bit of that. And then finally, while we're crouching, I'm going to hit the space bar and we simply stop crouching. And I'm noticing that we never actually set our movement speed back to normal, so we need to do that. Let's do that real quick. We'll go to our jump function, and if we're crouching and we set crouching to false, we also need to get character movement and set max walk speed back to base movement speed. Awesome. So we can compile that. And while that's compiling, we're going to go back into the editor and we're going to go to our animations and search for crouch, and we'll find our stand to crouch. Here it is. And it looks like we're squatting, and then there's a whole bunch of time at the end of this that I don't think we need. So I'm going to scroll through to about here, right about there, and I'm going to right click and remove from frame 14 to 25. Okay, now let's give this a test. I'll run and crouch. That's a lot better. And our movement speed is normal, and we slow down, we speed up, perfect. And now if I jump, we don't actually jump while we're crouching, we simply get out of the crouching state. Awesome, everything is starting to look really good. So we'll go ahead and wrap up this video, and in the next video, we will continue. See you in the next video.